because it can't be stopped.
Buying a cheap house in a creepy town is always a bad idea, but when your mannequin starts moving, yeah, it's time to burn the whole zip code. Today we're diving into 825 Forest Road, a 2025 supernatural horror film written and directed by Stephen Cugnetti, set in Ashland Falls, Pennsylvania, a town with more suicides than stop signs. Let's get into it. The plot. We open on a typical horror movie setup. Ashley is video calling her friend Natalie while flipping through a creepy book titled Ashland Falls. Yes, like the town. Suddenly someone knocks on Ashley's door. She quickly hides the book and says, "Come in," but Natalie is confused. Ashley had just told her she was home alone. Ashley checks the door, no one is there. She searches the house but finds nothing. As she returns to her room, there's another knock. This time, it terrifies her, and the scene cuts. Enter the main family. Chuck, his wife Maria, and his sister Isabella move into a house in Ashland Falls. Their agent Bonnie says the home is twice as big as their last, but the same price, because it sat unsold for 3 years. When Isabella arrives, Bonnie congratulates her on her scholarship. Chuck mentions the house has room for her to do her art and asks if she still paints, which upsets her. Maria reminds him that Isabella earned her scholarship through her art. The story is told in chapters. Each chapter shows the same story from a different character's point of view. Chapter 1. Chuck. Chuck starts off dealing with homeowner horror, a leaky roof. He calls Bonnie to complain. The roof was supposed to be new. He even sends a photo, but when he checked it later, there's a gun in the image. That was definitely not there before, so either Photoshop ghosts are a thing or something's way off. Meanwhile, Maria's filming a sewing tutorial in her studio, featuring a mannequin named Martha. Chuck hates it. Maria says it's sentimental. Okay, creepy mannequin, check. Chuck meets their neighbor Larry, who casually drops a bomb. The previous owner killed himself. Great, that's not in the Zillow listing. Then Martha, the mannequin, shows up outside. No one moved it. And yes, that's how horror movies start. Also, Larry's asking about Isabella's mental health and casually recommends a trip to the library to learn about the town's history. Translation: Your house has lore. At the library, Chuck finds a suspicious stack of books, sees Ashley, yes, that Ashley, crying, and hears her whisper, "Put the books back and leave town." But Chuck's a white dad in a horror movie, so he doesn't. The librarian Molly brings up Forest Road out of nowhere and gets real cagey when Chuck mentions the book stack. Definitely not your average Dewey Decimal experience. Later, Olivia shows up for a piano lesson. She's a beginner, or so she says. Chuck leaves the room for 2 seconds and hears flawless piano playing. When he returns, there's a mysterious woman at the keys, then nothing. Olivia books it like the house is on fire. Smart girl. Then Chuck stumbles into a gardening club that's actually a front for ghost support group therapy. Larry's already there and acting cryptic. Turns out the gardening club is full of haunted townsfolk. They talk about being haunted, cursed, or worse, infected by a woman named Helen Foster. According to Terrence, the ringleader Helen lived at, drumroll, 825 Forest Road in the 1940s and killed herself. Now she's haunting the whole damn town like a sentient trauma cloud. Some members say the only way to stop her is to destroy the original house, but nobody can find Forest Road anymore. Then things escalate. Helen's ghost actually shows up at the door during the meeting. Chaos ensues. Chuck runs outside and notices a chapel nearby. Cue the ominous foreshadowing. And that's the end of Chapter 1. We've got haunted history, creepy townspeople, ghost sightings, and a mannequin named Martha who needs her own spinoff. Chapter 2. Isabella. Now we rewind the cursed VHS tape and replay everything, this time through Isabella's moody, emotionally scarred eyes. And trust me, things are even worse from her POV. We start with Bella stepping into the house for the first time. She doesn't see it, but we do. Helen Foster's ghost straight up photobombs her entrance. In a voiceover, Bella confesses that moving in with her brother Chuck and his Pinterest-perfect wife Maria was a huge mistake. Chuck's glued to his piano lessons, Maria's glued to her live streams, and Bella, she's spiraling into nightmares about their dead mom. Later, Chuck hears Bella talking to herself. She says she's doing a journal for therapy. That's healthy, right? Except when your entries include drawings of a woman with a shadow hand and a house that looks exactly like the one you just moved into, which she drew 3 years ago. Psychic pre-haunting anyone? Oh, and she reveals Chuck bailed on her and their mom years ago. Guess family therapy wasn't on the move-in checklist. Bella overhears Chuck and Maria talking about the mannequin. Yes, Martha the mannequin is still getting screen time. Bella spots scratches on the front door. Everyone's pointing fingers. Bella swears she didn't move Martha, which raises one horrifying possibility: she moved herself. Chuck comes back from his secret spooky club, the Friends of Gardening, and Bella confronts him. She says something's wrong, like Ashley just killed herself wrong. Chuck doubles down on denial and tries to dump guilt on Bella for their mom's death. She claps back, saying that Chuck had never even told Maria she had a sister. Drama? Meet supernatural trauma. Then Bella's classmate Luke shows up, and the exposition train rolls on. He drops the urban legend: some guy hanged himself using books in the library. And the cursed book pile still shows up like it's got a library card from hell. Bella asks about Helen. Luke delivers the tragic backstory. Helen Foster's daughter was bullied into suicide. Helen tried to get help. No one listened. Then Helen snapped, killed the bully and their parents, and finally herself. Basically, she went full Carrie, but with administrative follow-through. Now her ghost haunts the town like a petty poltergeist with unfinished business. And her house, 825 Forest Road, vanished, erased. The last known map showing it was sealed away in the 50s, and anyone who's tried to reveal it didn't end well. Like the 1980s town council that mysteriously locked themselves in and were seen inside with Helen's ghost. Maria and Bella visit an art gallery, and wouldn't you know it, Helen's ghost makes a cameo inside one of the paintings. Nothing like some cursed avant-garde to ruin date night. Panic ensues, the gallery closes early. Vibes ruined. Back home, Bella's closet light turns on. She unscrews the bulb, goes back to bed. Then the light turns on again. No bulb, still on. When she checks, the bulb's still on her nightstand, and she's terrified. Later, Bella tells Luke that she wants to find 825 Forest Road and asks for his help. But Luke refuses. He explains that Ashley and her friend Natalie had found Forest Road, and after that, strange things began happening to Ashley until she took her own life. Soon, Chuck calls Bella and asks for her to come home. When she arrives, she sees Maria looking visibly upset. Chuck tells Bella to start packing. He'll be back soon. Bella asks if he's going to look for Helen Foster's house, but Chuck doesn't respond. He leaves. When Maria hears Helen's name, she looks confused, as if she doesn't recognize it. Later, as Bella packs her clothes, Luke shows up. Bella tells him she's moving back to campus. Suddenly, Luke notices a photo of Bella's mom and says, "I just saw her downstairs." Bella, horrified, tells him her mother died in a car accident just a few months ago. Suddenly, they hear a noise downstairs. When they go to check, no one is there. Terrified, Luke runs out. Bella then hears a voice calling her, "Isabella, it's Mommy." Maria tries to stop her, but Bella follows the voice. Helen's ghost finally shows up and goes full poltergeist. Bella and Maria scramble to escape, but the front door is supernaturally locked. Classic. They split up, another A+ horror decision, and moments later we hear Maria scream. Smash cut, Chapter 2 ends. Chapter 3, Maria. Welcome to the last timeline, starring Maria, livestream queen, sewing maven, and unwilling cast member in this supernatural soap opera. We rewind again to the house-buying moment where Maria and Chuck are still under the delusion that this was a great investment. Later, sitting outside the library, Maria tries to empathize with Bella's trauma. She even opens up about her own struggles with mental health when she was Bella's age. Chuck, he's out there calling therapy a scam. Cool take, bro. Can't wait to see how that goes. Maria reminds him that Bella was the one driving when their mom died, and that maybe, just maybe, unresolved trauma doesn't vanish with a Tylenol. In the next scene, Maria is on a phone call with her sister. She talks about how different the town feels compared to the city and how she's struggling to adjust. After the call, Maria took her medication and headed downstairs. As she walks down the stairs, Helen's ghost silently watches her from above. Downstairs, Chuck is reading a book about Ashland Falls. He tells Maria that in 1953, the town changed all its street names and redrew the borders. He also mentions that their house used to be called 15 Rose Lane. As they talk, Maria walks into the kitchen and sees dishes stacked up with a note that says they won't put themselves away. Thinking Bella left the message, she asks Chuck to remind Bella to clean the kitchen. Maria then leaves for a trip out of town. As she drives, she hears the news of Ashley's death on the car radio. At the same time, Helen's ghost watches her from the shadows. Later, Maria is doing a live stream. She briefly leaves to go to her room, but when she returns to her studio, she notices the mannequin, Martha, has changed positions. Startled, she asks Bella if she came into the studio. Bella says no. Still uneasy, Maria returns to her stream and tries to act normal. Later, she glances at Martha again, still confused by how it moved. Her medicine timer goes off, but she decides not to take it. In the next scene, Maria and Bella are returning from the art gallery. Maria speaks with Chuck about Bella. She admits she doesn't really know how Bella's doing. After all, she only found out about her 3 months ago. Chuck replies that he lived with Bella for 10 years, but now she feels more like a stranger than a sister. A few days later, Maria is live streaming again. We see the mannequin Martha move on its own in the background. Maria's sister, Allison, calls her, but she doesn't answer. She says Allison probably wants to talk about bridesmaids' dresses, since she watches her streams. Maria gets up to show the dresses on camera. Suddenly, the mannequin turns toward her. Then a strange message pops up. Get out of the house. Confused and frightened, Maria looks around, only to see Martha is gone. She hears a sound. The mannequin has reappeared, now moving again and facing her. Maria finally snaps. She and Chuck burn the mannequin. About time. We then see Luke and Bella upstairs. Maria walks into the kitchen. She sees bowls stacked neatly, this time with a new note. Hello, Maria. Then Helen's ghost appears behind her. She whispers, I know you're there, Maria. Then calling out in Bella's mother's voice, Isabella, it's Mommy. Maria and Bella panic and run to their rooms. As Maria hides in her room, we cut to later. Maria finds Bella and holds her in a tight hug. She looks pale. Her nose begins to bleed. The chapter ends there. Final chapter, Forest Road. Chuck's sitting beside a resting Maria when Luke walks in with some real estate tea. Back in the 50s, the town buried its secrets under fake maps, but they forgot to hide the power grid. That could reveal where Forest Road really is. Chuck and Bella decide to follow the ghost's GPS breadcrumbs. Then Bonnie the realtor shows up to film a testimonial. Maria, who just looked like death on a couch, suddenly walks in like a makeup tutorial goddess and insists on filming. Chuck is shook. No one told Maria about their plan. Yet she looks Chuck dead in the eye and says, go find it. While filming, Maria starts talking about her daughter being bullied and dying. Wait, her daughter? Luke, horrified, asks the name. She replies, Mary. Boom, Helen reveal. Too late. Helen appears and unalives them both on camera. Influencer career permanently canceled. Meanwhile, Chuck and Bella reach the edge of the forest. The road is closed, but they walk. They find an old, decaying house filled with desperate letters. But twist, it's not Helen's house. It belonged to the bully's family. Helen's house, it's been right under their feet the entire time. 15 Rose Lane equals 825 Forest Road. Their new home is ground zero for ghost rage. Chuck calls Bella, only to find her inside the house, standing near a doorway. A shadowy hand rests on her shoulder, just like in her prophetic drawing. He rushes towards her. Too late. They're both pulled into the room. The door slams shut. Acting and character behaviors. The performances in 825 Forest Road exist in that uncanny horror zone where you're not sure if the characters are haunted or just under-directed. There's a stiff, stagey quality to most of the acting, like everyone was handed their lines 5 minutes before filming and told, just do your best, we'll fix it in post. Joe Falcone as Chuck feels like a man perpetually trapped in a CVS checkout line. His face oscillates between consternation and vague indigestion. He's supposed to be a piano teacher, family man, and reluctant hero, but none of it clicks. His attempts at warmth towards his sister Isabella are tone-deaf, and when he isn't awkwardly failing at empathy, he's off dismissing therapy like he just read one anti-psychology blog post and called it a day. Even in scenes where he should be terrified or emotionally cracked open, he just kind of squints. And then there's Catherine Miller as Isabella, who reads less like a traumatized art student and more like someone permanently annoyed they can't get good Wi-Fi. She's given the dark, damaged sister archetype, but her delivery is flat, whether she's experiencing nightmares, ghostly hauntings, or confronting family secrets. She has moments where you almost feel her pain, but they're immediately undercut by either poor pacing or stiff dialogue. Instead of unraveling psychologically, she just gets moodier. Think more bored at Hot Topic than haunted by spectral trauma. Elizabeth Vermilya as Maria, on the other hand, is the MVP. She brings nuance, humanity, and actual range to her performance, which makes it all the more frustrating that her character gets treated like a side quest for most of the film. Her fear feels grounded. Her descent into paranoia is believable. You buy her sadness, her isolation, her internal unraveling. And when she finally starts seeing Helen, she sells it. Her chapter hits hardest because she's the only character that feels real, a woman trying to hold on to her identity while the supernatural and her in-laws conspire against her. What makes all this worse is how the script handles exposition. Instead of letting the story breathe, it clumsily drops entire lore bombs and dialogue. Chuck goes to a gardening meeting, and boom, town haunted. Here's the rules. Here's the ghost's name. Now let's all nod, solemnly. The movie never earns its scares because it tells you what's scary instead of showing it through the characters' reactions. Character choices often defy logic, too. You hear a ghost using your dead mom's voice and decide to follow it down the hallway? You find someone killed themselves in the library using a stack of books, and your next move is to check out more books from the haunted section? These people aren't surviving a Scooby-Doo episode, let alone a real haunting. In short, the performances are mostly wooden, the characters are frustratingly inconsistent, and only Maria feels like a living, breathing human being instead of a spooky plot device. The actors deserved a tighter script, and maybe a director willing to say, let's try that again, but this time with emotion. Cinematography and sound. This film's atmosphere does slap. The way it uses light, or the lack of it, gives every room this silent dread. The sound design avoids loud musical cues and instead leans into subtle audio horrors, ghostly whispers, off-screen movements, and distorted voices from the past. Helen's voice mimicking Bella's mom is straight-up manipulative ASMR. Fear factor score. From mannequins on the move to shadows peeking around corners, this film builds tension well. It's not graphically brutal, but the dread lingers. The ghost is terrifying, but the movie is cliché. I still give the fear factor score a 7.1. I feel like the ghost was terrifying and the movie was creepy. The way the head pokes from behind the corner is the type of scene that can be terrifying if done right. The mannequin was a nice touch, but again, it was cliché. Overall, the story was good, and I like how it ends with everyone being unalived. It made it not so easy to guess the ending, but the rest of the movie had all the scary movie clichés. Final verdict. 825 Forest Road is like a great horror novella turned into a competent, slightly cluttered film. It's not quite theatrical level, but as a straight-to-streaming experience, it works. The film tries to connect Helen to the family's deceased mother, but the link never quite clicks. What should be a chilling overlap between personal grief and town-wide horror ends up feeling like a missed opportunity, and the ghost is haunting from a different movie. Chuck, who should be the glue of the family, is instead the kindling. He gaslights his wife, downplays his sister's trauma, scoffs at therapy, and somehow knows the most about Helen but tells no one. He's the horror movie equivalent of a Facebook dad who does his own research. Isabella's pain is valid, but she does drag poor Luke into the ghostly blast zone. Maria, though? Maria deserved better. As I said, her arc is the strongest. She's the only one with a real support system and holds the most emotional weight. Her chapter delivers the best tension, clearest stakes, and most relatable paranoia. Throw a black dress on a woman, and you have a horror movie. For people who do not like The Woman in the Yard 2025, will prefer something more conventional like this, and vice versa. Like The House, the story has good bones, but it feels like an extended episode of a horror anthology series. Or a television movie. It is straight to streaming, then a movie that could stand tall on the big screen. If more time was spent tying together the different elements of the story, it could have worked, but they never blended. Also, demerit for giving in to conventional tropes and putting red shirts on the most obvious characters. And that wraps up our ghost tour of 825 Forest Road. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button like it's a cursed piano key. Subscribe to more horror deep dives, spooky roasts, and the occasional supernatural intervention. Got a favorite haunted house flick? Drop it in the comments.